Another Job Train How Talent session. Well, we've had some time off, and I tell you what, I've really missed it. So really happy to see so many people joining for this morning's session. We should be live on Crowdcast. We should also be live on LinkedIn as well. So wherever you're watching, welcome and good morning. If I'm a little bit croaky this morning, it's because I had my very first trip to London in 19 months yesterday. I went to the IHR London show, and my goodness, was it good to be back at an in-person event. But I don't know about you, if you've been in an environment, especially work environment, where there's people physically rather than on Teams, I came away absolutely shattered. It was so good to see people again, shake hands, even hugs and that kind of thing. Although a few people in the office are swerving me this morning on the basis of that, but I feel good. But yeah, it's good to feel connected again. And I think that that's something that we've all missed a lot over the last 18 months, especially those of us that work in people. We're all sociable via our very nature. And we've missed that element of physical connection with people. And I think that's why this morning's session is going to be so relevant as we talk about employee engagement. And I'm super grateful to the very, very experienced John Tarrant for joining us for this morning's session. Talking about events, though, we have got events coming up. Job Train aren't going to be at the Firm Day in Manchester, but a date for your diary is if you want to go to a physical event and get involved, I can highly recommend it. The Firm are running their first physical Manchester event on the 28th of September. I'm going to pop a little link to that one in. And Job Train is going to be back out on the road too. I'm really excited for that on the 6th of October, which is the in-house live event. That's going to be in Manchester. And apart from exhibiting, I'm going to be running a physical Job Train How panel session. So really excited to do that physically and in front of people. It's a long time since I've done it. And we're going to tackle a lot of the issues and learnings around the last 18 months of COVID. We've got some fantastic people and expertise joining me for that one. I haven't checked, but hopefully you can all hear me okay. I've got a poll running, so do please, it's just in the bottom here, do please get involved, give us your responses. And as we go through this morning's session, which I think will probably be about, I don't know, 45 minutes, something like that. If you've got any questions at all, stick them in the Ask Questions bit, which is down here, and we'll be more than happy to answer your queries as we go along. So without any further ado, I'm going to stop prattling on. Let's get started and get John on. You'll have to bear with me. It's a little while since I've done this. So I'm a little bit out of practice. So hopefully, technically, we'll be okay. I've found John. John, I'm going to invite you on screen now. So hopefully John will join us in a minute. And we can get started with the chat. Always a good chance to have a little bit of coffee. John, are you there? Ah, great. Good morning.
Morning, Giles. How you doing? Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's been such a long time.
Well done on your trip to London. You didn't get lost.
No, I did. You know what? It's funny you should say that. I jumped on the tube and I was like, oh my God, I forgot a complete blank. I've forgotten the tube map. I was only going to Islington, so no, I didn't get lost. Just got rained on.
Did you have one of those things around your neck that if lost, please send back to the Job Train offices in Manchester?
Yeah, with big hats, well, just like Paddington. Yeah, please look after this, Giles. Yeah, something like that.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Well done you. And good morning, everybody. Thanks for giving up your time this morning. The purpose of these sessions for us at DNA, really, it's about maybe giving some of you guys some good ideas or some food for thought, or maybe something that you can go and apply in your business tomorrow. And if that works for you, then that's time well spent for us.
Oh, thanks, John. So do you want to give everybody an introduction to you, and also we are DNA, because we know one another really quite well because we've collaborated with clients and what have you, but perhaps not everybody will. I have popped a link to John's LinkedIn profile in the chat, so please feel free to connect with him today on LinkedIn. But John, yeah, over to you.
Okay. So really quickly, I'm managing partner of DNA based in Bristol. Set up in 2010, cover the UK, cover the world from Bristol. we help clients find, keep, and engage the staff they need to make their business successful. For some clients, it's about the finding, so helping them shape and share their story with the external talent market. For other clients, it's about keeping and engaging them, and making sure that the employer branding strategy, which is designed to appeal to current and future talent, is just as relevant for those people who've got to buy their brand every day. And we have some clients where we go on the journey with them across every single touch point of the employee life cycle. Our largest client is probably ST Microelectronics, got 40-something thousand employees right across the world. Largest client in the UK is Whole Foods with 13,000 colleagues. But we've got clients with 50 staff or 35 staff, and the reality is we love them just the same. It's about the spirit of partnership and the journey we can go on together, which is the most important thing. Over the last 18 months, we've sort of transformed as a business. 18 months ago, we were too big to be small and too small to be big, but we've gone from fewer than 10 people to more than 20, with a mix of in-house creative, digital, account handlers, strategy, and various other people. So yeah, I'm a lucky man. I've got a great team around me who make the magic happen.
Brilliant. I've had first-hand experiences with that as well.
Good stuff.
Great.
That's our second reference to magic today, Giles, because I'm Paul Daniels and you're the Debbie McGee, if we need to dip into any slides, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I haven't had any slides yet.
Okay, Mary's sending them over. I think they'll be there any minute.
Is she? Okay, great. Right. So we'll get started, I guess. From our own experience here at Job Train, we were so used to having everybody here and in the office. It's not something we necessarily mandated, but it was just nice to have everybody here and feel connected. And then suddenly, overnight, we were all sent home for quite a long period of time. So we had to all collectively work really quickly. And then we had the concern about, well, how is everybody? Do people still feel connected to our business? Do we feel connected to one another? And I think, like a lot of companies, we tried lots of different things. We still have town halls and things. We've had virtual escape rooms and all this kind of stuff, and making sure that our comms are really clear, that we are, constantly in touch with people, that they feel that they are in a position that they feel safe to talk about where things are going well, where they aren't. But it does surface the whole challenge around employee engagement. We are a smaller business compared to many of our own clients. And I think right now we're thinking, well, we're probably going to be approaching something like a hybrid model. Some businesses I know are going to a full remote. It won't be something that we're doing. But then that does sort of make us think, well, longer term, how are we going to tackle the challenge around employee engagement? So I guess it's a question of, where do you start? So I imagine that you probably see under the bonnet a lot in terms of businesses and their people. So what's changed from your perspective in terms of employee engagement over the last 18 months or so?
We do. I mean, the joy of our job is we do see under the bonnet of all of those different businesses. And the joy of events like this is that we can maybe share that experience with talent attraction and HR people, because for most of their time, they spend all their lives looking inwards and don't get the chance to see what other organisations are doing. Where we are now with employee engagement, I was in a meeting yesterday with a client, and we described it as employee engagement 3.0. So employee engagement 1.0 was, back in the old days where, pre-COVID, nothing had ever changed. Everybody was commuting and working from work, and you had finance directors who saying, if I can't see them, I can't trust them. I don't know what they're doing. So that was the old days. Employee engagement 2.0, as you say, that was in lockdown 1, 2, and 3. Where we were coaching clients was saying, it's okay to be humble, and it's okay to have empathy, and it's okay to say to your clients, look, we've never done a pandemic before. We're making this up as we go along. And we had some clients who basically went back into their cave and hid until they'd come out blinking sort of into the sunlight, more recently. We had some where it was just sort of business as usual. And we had others who looked at everything they were doing. They were thinking, do you know what? This isn't just about getting through it. Our mindset is we've got a great opportunity to come out stronger. And in terms of where we are now with employee engagement 3.0, the same applies. So anyone who's just done what they've always done, they're going to struggle. Anyone who has made mistakes over the last 12 or 18 months and has had a bad COVID for whatever reason, and we've had a conversation with a potential new client last week, which was, they sent people home poorly, they restructured mid-COVID, made redundancies, they went really badly, insisted on everybody coming back to the office too early, gave them all COVID and sent them home again. Comms has been pretty awful, but that's okay. They can't change the past. Nobody on this call can change the past. However, you can actually change what happens going forwards. And it's up to you what you want that to be. You're holding the pen, you're writing the story, so you decide what you want it to be. In terms of what employee engagement 3.0 looks like, one of the phrases again that came up yesterday was hybrid ever after. In that we can't, it's impossible to think that we're going to go back. It's not going to happen. So let's start with the end in mind. We love a cheesy phrase at DNA, and one of them is, let's start with the end in mind and build a plan around that. So if it's about employee engagement 3.0 for hybrid ever after, what does that look like? We need our workforce to be resilient. We need our workforce to be agile. We need our workforce to be more grown up and more mature, to be able to put change in context effectively. We need a workforce who can manage their way towards whatever their achievements or their KPIs might be, and also manage their working relationships in a different way. We need a workforce that can give and receive trust. And that's going to be quite a step for some organizations, but actually maybe just a little bit of evolution for others. So I guess the bit about employee engagement, I'll go into it in more detail, and I'll go into some of those three types of clients. But in terms of where we are now and where we go forwards and what we do, it's not one size fits all. Every organization is different, every situation is different. They've got different customers, different markets, different heritage, different history. But with every organization, when we put a plan together for them, they've all got assets, whether that's in their offer to customers or their heritage or their history or their positioning or their culture or they've all got assets that they can build a plan on. But that's what it needs. It needs careful planning to plan the work and work the plan. Giles, have you got any slides yet?
I'm ready.
All right.
I haven't shared slides on the screen since, I don't know, June last year. So if I make a pig's ear of it, just bear with me. But
just stick the first one on, and then we'll go into more detail on a couple of areas.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm going to stick it up now. Okay. Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it. Hopefully everybody else can.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. I've managed to do it without screwing it up. So over to you, John.
All right. So this is a tool that we used to use at DNA pre-COVID to help clients sit down and maximize the potential of their employer branding strategy. Now, employer branding is a strategy to appeal to current and future talent, people who will thrive in your culture, add value to themselves and their career, get a sense of achievement and fulfillment, add value to their colleagues around them, and most importantly, add value to the customers. And what we do with clients is we sit down and we help them obsess about every touch point on the employee life cycle. If you want performance shift in your business, then you need an element of brand shift. If you need an element of brand shift, you need an element of people shift. And whether it's engaging people as they are onboarding and in induction, I'm going to talk about reboarding later because that's a bit of a word on everybody's lips. If it's about making sure your leaders and managers are delivering the employment experience you need them to do, then that's another area to obsess on. If it's the one which is about transactional employment to emotional engagement, again, there's something that we can absolutely obsess on. And there's three types of client. I talked about the ones who stayed in the K, the one who did business as usual, and one said, do you know what, we could really come out of this stronger, we could transform stuff here because we've got real bandwidth now that we didn't have before. Those are the ones who are genuinely succeeding at the moment. In old days in employer branding and employee engagement, it was all sort of shades of grey. Everybody sort of did all right. But what we're seeing much more black and white. We're seeing the winners, and we're seeing some real losers. And the losers are the ones where they're saying, do you know what, attrition's out of control. They're running for the X's quicker than we can deal with it. So I'm really happy. I want everyone to get as much value out of this as possible and some good ideas they can apply in their business tomorrow. I'm really happy to answer any questions on that slide. But the things that seem to be on most HR directors and talent directors' lips at the moment are effectively employee engagement, a bit about purpose, because that's more important than ever, internal comms, which again is more important than ever, and a couple of things which are very much of the moment. One is reboarding and one is attrition. So we'll cover those off. Off quickly. And I think, the first cab off the rank is what's happened in terms of employee engagement since lockdown one. In the engagement surveys we ran, employee engagement went up in the first 3 or 4 months across the board in lockdown one. There was a sort of a blitz spirit. Lots of clients were doing the Zoom calls and they were doing the quizzes on a Friday, and they were doing yoga and cookery lessons and everything else. And that was great, but people's resilience got tested. And within about 6 to 9 months, you could see, the shoulders sag collectively, not just in the HR directors, but across the board and effectively across the whole workforce. And certainly for the first probably 3 or 4 months this year, it was a slog for everybody. And engagement levels are about the same as pre-COVID, if not a bit lower. So that's what's happening overall. The key trends that we're seeing in the engagement surveys that we're running are really interesting. The first one is the level of response rate. The last 3-4 surveys we've closed have all had 95-96% response rate, which to a certain extent is unheard of.
What do you put that down to? That's incredible.
It is incredible, and do you know what? I couldn't quite believe it in the first place, because your immediate reaction when you see a 96% response rate is the line managers have been going around with a great big club beating people to make sure they feel nice things. But that's not what it is. It's employees' expectations have increased. They absolutely demand a voice and want to shape the employment experience as it's being shaped for the future.
So if you're getting that kind of response rate, you have a base level of engagement right there, don't you?
Completely.
It might not be in the right way in terms of how the business is being run and how people feel engaged as part of the business, but clearly they want to have a voice and they want to have input.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. And with the one of the clients I was with earlier on this week, they had a 96% response rate, and attrition is all right, but it's a bit of a worry. But it's by just do the maths. The people who are leaving the business want to have their say. People who are staying want to have their say, and trust is increased. A level of autonomy is increased during COVID. Employee engagement and well-being in old money used to be two different things. There were almost two boxes to tick if you were a certain type of organisation, but now they're one and the same thing. If you can't keep me safe, then all bets are off with regard to employee engagement.
Really interesting.
In addition to the response rates going through the roof, we take clients through Sunday Times, 100 best companies to work for and great places to work. I seem to recall the average response rate in Sunday Times was about 66, 68%. But we're dealing with 90 something. We can get clients to 90 something after 3 or 4 years, but straight off the back, some of these people haven't done a survey for 18 months or 2 years, and they're coming in with 95, 96%. And the great thing is, it's not just the response rate, which shows us that they want to have a voice. Within the free text, there's always sort of 6 or 7 free text questions. The care and the eloquence that they put in to talking about what's good and maybe what's not about what's not. People have taken real care to get their point over, which has been key.
Yeah, when you talk about it in those terms, it makes an awful lot of sense. We've all essentially been we've been kept apart from one another. We felt fragmented. The fact that we want to say in terms of feeling engaged once more seems to make a lot of sense to me. Yeah,
completely. And I think there's a bit about empowerment. There's a bit about this bit about trust. We've had a couple of clients where we've taken the people who are close to the customer and asked them, how do we enhance the customer experience? How do we enhance the customer journey? And the stuff that's come out has been gold dust. And the great thing about that is it's given sort of genuine hope and a forward-looking perspective to what that particular organisation was doing, as opposed to keep your head down and it'll all be all right once it's all over. So The other things in employee engagement surveys, I think, I mean, the key bit is you've got to ask the right questions. You know, we have lots of organisations you talk to. The chief exec won't do one because doesn't want to stick his head above the parapet to get it shot off. Doesn't want it to be a Windsors charter. So you've got to ask the right questions. You've got to ask the brave questions. You've got to have the right comms plan around it. And most importantly, you've got to have the right actions that come off the back of it. You know, it's pointless collecting the data because it's not just about collecting the data, it's about what you do with it, which is the most important.
Yeah. Have you got any good examples of the type of questions that you might want to ask in an initial survey like that?
We have a suite of about 60 something, but you'd never ask 60 something questions.
No.
You know, the sweet spot is 26, 28 plus whatever the free text questions might be. And there's probably a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 6. And that's where you know, when that business has got a real itch to scratch about how we get under the skin of, you know, possibly attrition or possibly our values, or do you get the journey we're on, or how would you describe the culture here? So in that sweet spot of the 20 something in the free text, there'll be a right blend for everybody. Some organizations are very much about health and safety. Some are about making sure that we're aligning people with the purpose and the journey and the challenge of change. There's one client where they hadn't done a survey, since God was a boy. And what that threw up was huge amounts of disparity in understanding and a huge number of whistleblowing issues, which, although they had a really low response rate and the level of trust was really low, there is no such thing as a bad survey. They're all positive because at least you've got a benchmark and you're proving that you're listening and acting. And that one gave an opportunity for people to change real stuff that was grinding them into the dirt every day. One of the neat tricks, I don't know if you can go on to the next slide.
Yeah, I was just waiting for the whole Chris Whitty next slide, please. Yeah, I'm on it. There we go.
Okay. There's probably out of the surveys that we've run, there's been some real key things beyond just the response rates and people want a voice. And do you know what? They're really giving a damn with the eloquence of their free text stuff. Leaders and managers, equipping leaders and managers with the skills to be the leaders and managers we want them to be has come up. Communication and cooperation between different teams and departments has sort of reared its head in surveys, and that's got worse pretty much everywhere with people working remotely. Communication has been a huge issue, and the reality is every client out there has really pulled, really pulled all the stops out to improve communication, but to a certain extent, pretty much everywhere it's, we found the gaps we found the 20% that's not working as opposed to the 80% that is. And the other bit, the bit that relates to this slide and a couple after is, now more than ever, people seek meaning in their work. Sometimes purpose or mission or vision, sometimes it's a bit of a nice to have, we rock in, do the work, get paid, go home. But certainly what's happened in the last 18 months, people have sort of reevaluated who we are, what we do, why do we exist, what's the good that we do. And for some people that said, do you know what, I'm off, I'm going to go and be a yoga instructor, or I'm going traveling when all this is over. But we've managed to, with a number of organizations, managed to uncover the power of purpose and to feed their intrinsic motivators, that stuff deep inside that makes them fizz into work, eager to make a difference. Whereas before they might have relied more on the extrinsic motivator of the carrot and the stick. And if you take the carrot or the stick away, the behavior that you want disappears.
Yeah.
Feeding their intrinsic motivator is the gift that keeps on giving. I think it's Sanskrit, the word enthos, which is the derivation for the word enthusiasm, means inner God in Sanskrit, enthos. So we're always obsessed with the concept. So how do we feed their inner God? So with Superdry, this was work done in COVID, new global employer brand, new global EVP, new global career site, an organization in change. And with Superdry, we developed the Superdry playbook, which covered their purpose, covered their vision, covered their mission, but it also covered values and behaviors. And you can flick onto this slide and the next couple if you want to. And as we, I know with Superdry, it was always a bit tribal, but whoever you are, wherever you are in this call, you've got the opportunity to make it tribal, to drive that sense of pride, to drive that sense of the things that set you apart, to drive the, do you know how we do this? This makes us different and special because how we do this helps us deliver our purpose, and that good that we do is almost priceless. So I think there's real value in that, in driving that purpose and driving that values and driving that sense of purpose. And as I say, that's one of the things that we've seen come out of the engagement surveys. People go, what are we here for again? I know you told me about the strategy thing, but can you just tell me again? So that's purpose and value. The other bit, as I say, comms has been huge. I read somewhere that the average length of stay, the average attention span on a webinar or a Teams call or a Zoom call is 12 minutes. So actually we lost everybody.
So we're well over that by now. So.
Yeah, we're on our third lap. And we've got clients where the chief exec or the board were absolutely doing the right things. That Monday morning calls and Wednesday check-ins. And these things have been running for an hour and a half. And in addition to the attention span being 12 minutes, people only remember one or two things. So people take on information in different ways. And although everybody has stepped up, the clear thing that's coming out of the engagement surveys is, we feel out of the loop. Stuff changes in other departments and we don't know. Why are we always the last to know? You ask about comms and within the departments, you ask about it within the teams, you ask about it within the company as a whole. And in theory, you should know more about what's going on in your team, a little bit less maybe about what's going on in your department, and a little bit less about what's going on in the company as a whole. And what we've had engagement surveys come back where it's been completely flipped, where it's clear that the comms at the centre is doing okay, but the departmental stuff and the team stuff is failing badly. There isn't one version of the truth. Everybody feels like they're the last to know. They can't put any change in context. And the key thing the thing that's always there is the rumour mill, which is wrong 70% of the time and killing them every day. Sorry, Giles, just go back a bit.
Yep.
So, yes, people are really fatigued, but if you want to align people with your purpose, if you want to put change in context, if you want to celebrate success, build a culture of recognition, from an internal comms point of view, it's not a nice to have, it's a have to have. And although, within DNA, and there's lots of other good agencies out there that produce beautiful creative work, that's strongly branded and gives people a warm sense of feeling deep inside, it's underpinned by really boring things like structure, discipline, process, planning, content plans. And again, whoever you are, wherever you are on this call, having one version of the truth is absolutely key. Sorry, Giles, just go back one again.
Yeah.
One of the other things, this is Hilti are going through a huge amount of change. They're also relocating. So incredible uncertainty at the time of global uncertainty. But by obsessing about the comms, by using not just digital comms or Cascade or email comms or town halls, but using some good old fashioned print, we've actually got everybody on the journey. And if anything, within COVID, with people disconnected and a long way from home or a long way from the mothership, the power of the coffee table has actually been quite significant, where we're sending stuff to people's home addresses. It sits on the coffee table. They can read it once, read it twice. Their partner looks at it and goes, blimey, this is really good. My employer doesn't do this, but look at what these folks are doing. This is brilliant. You should be really proud to work there. They're doing a great job. So
it makes a lot of sense, because I think we've bombarded ourselves with digital input, Netflix, online, all the rest of it. And then suddenly something physical, I imagine, just breaks free of that. And as you say, it's probably infectious in as much as you got something physical that sits on a table, then somebody else is going to read it. And perhaps today, where we've got other people coming into our homes and what have you, then other people might pick that up. Yeah. And what I've read and what I've heard in terms of employee engagement, some organizations have gone even further and sought to bring the whole family into the organization, or making them feel connected and part of that organization. Because I think for all of us, family is obviously important for every single person here, but it probably became even more important during the course of the last 18 months. We were trying to protect those family members that are vulnerable, or try and homeschool our children, or whatever it might be. So I guess those organizations that could really get it right and actually make the extended family feel part of the organization's family are probably doing really well. And I know there's some criticism there about people who refer to their organizations as family. And I think there's probably a whole separate debate there, but I'm using that term because we do use it here at JobTrain.
Yeah. To be fair, we have clients where they stick their flag in the ground and they say, do you know what, our statement of intent is we look after the whole person. We look after them in and out of work. And we know that if we want to enable them and empower them to bring their best self to work, then all of the home stuff's got to work okay. So if they've got issues in their home life or they've got struggles at home, we're really sympathetic and empathetic to that. And within COVID, as you say, it's put a real focus on that. So I can think of one organisation where if anyone was struggling, they just point them in the direction of the EAP provider. And whilst that might have worked in old money, it really doesn't now. It's 18 months if you want to get an appointment with a mental health counsellor, or that's just not enough. If employee engagement and wellbeing are one and the same thing, this is employee engagement 3.0, not 1.0 when it just used to be all right. So power of the coffee table, one version of the truth. Remember, people take on information in different ways. So whether it's cartoons, animation, videos, webinars, the printed word, cascade, checking with the chief exec for 5 minutes every sort. Do we use some of those? No, we use all of them, but you plan the work and work the plan with a rigid content plan, as a marketeer would do.
Yeah.
Just with one of the other things that's come out of the employee engagement surveys is, I sort of touched upon it before, is the thinning of work relationships. And again, whoever you are, wherever you are on this call, you've got to work so much harder to connect people back to the mothership, not just aligning people with your purpose or building a culture of recognition. There's more to it than that. If I think of Get Living or one of our clients, I'm going to show you an example in a moment. In old money and Get Living, if you worked in finance, team in finance are great, great teams, some great managers, and every day when you walked into finance at Get Living, you walk through the 2012 Olympic Park, which is a joy to behold. You go past the folks in marketing and brand experience, you see the folks in HR, you see the client-facing relationship managers, you see the maintenance teams who fix boilers, change light bulbs, stop leaky tap. There's always a collection of probably journalists, a few PR folks, some temps, the leaders. You go to work and you have a multicoloured existence. With, it's not necessarily fireworks and unicorns and rainbows and all of those things, but, every day is slightly different and every day is more interesting. Now, you probably only talk to the other 8 people in finance and a couple of other people from other departments, who might have a question that they've got to have answered. So, we need to find a way in what's still likely to be hybrid, if not ever after, certainly for the next 2 years, to tie people to the mothership, to give them that connection, and to stop the thinning of work relationships. And it can be, coffee and a catch up, or it can be working from home packs or whatever else. So just whiz on a bit, Charles, because
I'm going to bring you back in the room in a minute. So where would you like me to go to?
Yeah, so that one, that's a charity challenge. Walk to Lapland, get there for Christmas Eve. Everybody's miles count. So if you are, if you're a person of a certain age and actually all you do is walk to the bus stop, then that counts. If you're a lycra warrior and you cycle 200 miles, that counts too. That's brilliant. Bond everybody in, mix the teams up, give them a combined sense of purpose, give them a journey, actually get them moving as well, because that's a good thing to do.
I'll chip in on that. I've seen quite a few examples. So I run a bit. And I've got friends that cycle too. And I have seen quite a few examples of corporates actually setting up groups on Strava. So when you look at this kind of challenge, then everybody basically signs up together. Now, whether, as you say, whether they're cycling, running, walking, whatever, they all feel part of a sense of community to achieve a common goal, which in this case, obviously, is walking so many miles, and it might be collective charity effort or something like that.
Yeah. And we, with a couple of clients, we've made it more correct. For Aldermore, before the Rio Olympics, we charted a path. I know this is pre-COVID, from London 2012 to Rio 2016, and it was all about the road to Rio. Whether you ran, rode, rumbered, wriggled, because one guy did the worm, everybody's miles counted. And we mixed people who'd never met, new joiners, people who'd been there forever, people in Wilmslow, people in Peterborough, to get this collective sense of purpose and make it creative. These are examples of working from home pack to home pack, sent to home, to give people a level of connection. the most important thing on there is that with all thanks from Rick, the chief exec. So we've got this visible, approachable leadership at every stage, and there isn't an organisation out there that can't get visible, approachable leadership right. Folks and the staff just went mad on social media saying how cute, how brilliant their company was.
I guess this is sort of a really happy byproduct of getting it right. So people do feel engaged and they do feel cared for and thought about, and part of that sense of community, they're going to want to talk about it. And that is obviously then self-perpetuating in terms of the employer brand becoming something that is living and breathing rather than something that's written down somewhere.
Yeah, it's one of the couple of phrases we talk about. It's about making memories sometimes, and sometimes it's about moments of truth. So this was a working from home pack, which the chief exec actually delivered to people's front doors and handed it over.
Wow!
As opposed to being posted, those moments of truth and those memories. For a disconnected workforce, they're still trading off it now, whatever it is, 9 months later. I'm just going to talk about reboarding quickly because that's a word on everybody's lips at the moment.
Yeah. Are we done with the slides? Can I bring you back in the room?
Yeah, by all means. So
cool. Great. It's nice to see you.
So that's that sort of office picture-y bit, if you like, is come out of a conversation, although again, that was pre-COVID, but we've done lots of other ones since about, so hang on a minute, if we're reboarding, what's the office for? What are we doing? Is it one size fits all? I know Apple put out a diktat to their staff in the States, say, right, we want everybody in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and the employees went, no thanks, just think again. So the whole thing about reboarding, as with onboarding, it has to be a nurturing process. It has to be an engagement experience. It's not just about processing someone. Obsess about every touch point on that onboarding experience, with every touch point within onboarding to make sure it's the best engagement experience it can possibly be. Thrive on feedback. Again, a bit like the empathy and the visible, approachable leadership. It's okay to be a little bit vulnerable and say, do you know what? We never reboarded people in a pandemic before. So what do you want out of the world at work? How are we going to make it work for you? The reality is, folks, you're all adults. You know where you do your best work. So how do we make it work? In our experience, taking clients through the reboarding process, feedback is the champion for you. Engagement follows the clarity. So if we're making decisions, put it in context. If there's any element where there is a lack of clarity, then you're going to struggle. Fairness has come up a couple of times. So there are some people, reality is they have to be in the office every day because they're customer facing, for example.
Yeah.
And there's some people who are saying in the emotional well-beings or the staff service, I don't need to come back. I never need to come back. But we don't want a two-speed company and we don't want a divided company. So it's not one size fits all. We understand our responsibilities and we fulfill them in our actions. And we are all one team, whether we're customer facing and we're in the office every day, or whether we're somebody who comes in once a quarter, everybody matters. Whoever you are, full-time, part-time, been here 5 minutes, been here 50 years, everybody matters. And although you might say those things, you've got to show them and mean them and say them again and say them again and say them again.
I mean, in terms of that approach around return to work, I mean, I've heard a couple of different examples already, people getting it right and people are getting it wrong. And those people that seem to be sort of most mandating that return to the office, much like Apple did, it tends to very much backfire and people say, no, thanks very much. As far as I'm concerned, I'm working effectively. I think those have been a bit more collegiate in terms of the approach and perhaps saying, we'd love to welcome you back to the office so that we can collaborate together.
Yeah.
So in other words, we're going to benefit from your presence here in the office where we can collaborate, we can work with one another, we can produce, we can be creative in a way that you simply can't do over Teams or Zoom or what have you. That seems to work really well because you're giving welcome back into the fold rather than being, told what you should be doing and where you should be and when. Yeah,
the terminology is key because you did what 99 out of 100 clients do, and I've done it actually within DNA. It's about going back to the office, and it's not. The mindset is this is about going forward to a new and better way of working. Some of that is going to be office-based, some of it is going to be hybrid, but we're going to do the best. We're going to do the right thing for the best thing for the customers, the best thing for the business, the best thing for our people. And the order is people, customers, business, I think. So that conversation about hang on a minute, it's about going forwards to a new and better way of working, not going back to the office is key. And what's the office for? So the office is for people, number one. And there are some people who desperately, we've run emotional well-beings for clients throughout COVID, which we're really happy to share the questions with, by the way, if people want to see them. And in lockdown 1, some people are all right. 4 weeks later, they're struggling a bit. 4 weeks later, they're really struggling. In lockdown 1, we found some client staff literally within the first 4 weeks. I've got to go back to work. I'm in a 1-bed flat on my own with shit Wi-Fi. Don't see anybody all day. So for that particular client, we reopened the office for 2 people because they were going to crash and burn if we didn't do so. So go back to reboarding. What's the office for? The office is for people. The office is for collaboration, co-creation, development, and learning experiences. And experiences is the key. That's what the office has to be for. We know from the surveys we run, people go, I've got a laptop and a wall and a window at home. Why would I swap that for a laptop, a wall, and a window in the office? So you need to tell me what I'm going to the office for.
Yeah,
so,
I think those are such relevant points, and it's so important as we do think about a return to the office. And we haven't done that formally yet. Much as you said, we've got some people that absolutely want to be here rather than being at home because I think of one example, somebody's got really, really poor Wi-Fi, or they're sharing it with other people. Yeah. Yes, we do have a support team that need to be here every day. But as we're starting to think about those conversations with people about return to work, it's my choice to come here. But for those that have come in, have suddenly realised that there is the opportunity to collaborate, to co-create in a way that you simply can't do virtually. And they're sort of getting that. So it's interesting to see. Just conscious of time a little bit. There was Reed did a talk yesterday at IHR London, really, really good talk. And funny enough, it's all about the Great Resignation. It's gone right the way through the press. What's your take on that? And this is for anybody that's sort of here and wondering, what is that? The Great Resignation, the idea about it is that furlough ends, and that's suddenly going to open the floodgates in terms of people that perhaps have been sitting tight in a place of relative safety, and perhaps they haven't felt connected with their organisation because they've been on furlough, and then suddenly they're thinking, no, I don't want to be mandated back to the office. I don't feel connected as part of this organisation anymore. I'm going to start looking for roles. There's 1 million job vacancies in the UK, as was in the press yesterday. I'm going to go out and find something new. What do you think?
So what do I think? It is a thing. Whether it's the Great Resignation or whether it's 2 years worth of attrition stored up and manifesting itself in one, what we're seeing as we get in under the bonnet of those organisations are a number of things. First of all, some of those organisations you talk to get very defensive. They go, "Oh, it's just people reevaluating their life. They're going to go and be a yoga teacher or go travelling, or they're reevaluating." Actually, that's it may be true in certain instances, but they're deluding themselves if that's what they think it is. There are some organisations where they were sat quite comfortably because they had no staff turnover last year. People didn't want to leave and be last in, first day at a new employer, so they sat tight. So they were always going to go, and now they've gone this year. However, there were organisations who failed on the moments of truth. Those working from home packs or the calls from the chief exec. They failed in the moments of truth. They failed in terms of comms. They failed in terms of career pathing. So whoever you are, wherever you are, your next role is with us, and this is how you manifest itself. Lots of companies just decimated their L&D departments in COVID, or furloughed them and are paying the price a little bit. Some of them had really bad COVIDs, as I say, with poor restructures, insisting everybody came back to the office. As far as reboarding is concerned, there is, and whether it's hybrid ever after, enablement is key. And some organisations we know have failed on enablement, so they got people back to the office, and you couldn't do Zoom calls because it was too flipping noisy everywhere, or you couldn't connect because somebody taking charge of cable and there wasn't a chair at your desk because somebody pinched it.
And that's the same experience as coming in on akin to the first day when you're not ready for your new hire, but it's actually worse because you're like, well, this place used to be my second home. In fact, I spent more time in the office than I did in my real home, but I've come back to it and suddenly it's not. My chair isn't there, my desk isn't ready, I haven't got access to the right equipment. Why do I want to be here? I've got everything I need at home.
Completely. And even with people working at home, we've got clients where we've made sure that enablement conversation transfers not just from the workplace at work, but the workplace at home. So a budget to buy a desk and a chair. There's working from home packs with coasters and mouse mats if you use them, and some plants and. So you're properly investing in them, not just in their work at work, but in their work at home. So that nothing pisses people off. They fizz into work, they want to give their best, and they're not unable to do it because you haven't thought about it. And the bit about the reboarding experience, we were where they were moving into new offices. Chief exec waits for people in reception. They come in their sixes, takes them to their desk. Great to see you all. Remember we talked about this, and this. What I really rely on you to do is this and this, because this is how you fit into the whole. Thank you for this, thank you for that. And then he'll go back downstairs. 20 minutes later, the next little group of 6 will come in. And that making that a genuine experience of still socially different states has made a huge difference, because it's a memory. Engagement is how people feel. And all of the things he told them when he welcomed them upstairs, walked them up, took them in the pod. Remember what I taught you about the strategy, the thing I'm relying on you on. They've forgotten all of that, but they all remember how he made them feel by welcoming them and making an experience.
Perfect. And you prompted so many thoughts in my own mind, and looking back as a bit of a retrospective. I mean, for a lot of people, their last memory of the office was very, very suddenly being sent home.
Yeah.
And then the office being empty.
Mm-hmm.
So ensuring that return to the office is marked by a really positive experience and something that's memorable makes absolute sense to me.
Yeah.
So in the conscious of time, in terms of summarising, I think having a plan around engagement is absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm.
Engaging and I hate that phrase, but I'm going to say it anyway, reaching out to, making a connection with your employees and asking for their honest feedback and making sure that they feel comfortable and open enough to come back to you with their feedback, as well as free text boxes, which is quite interesting, because normally the natural approach to surveys is make it super easy with multiple choice, but that doesn't give people a freedom of expression. And then Mary made a really interesting point in the questions bit down here. It was just like, well, there was an organisation that did a survey 2 years ago, but then did nothing with the response.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get that feedback, be honest enough. Sometimes I guess it can be quite a sobering experience.
Yeah,
but you have to act on it.
We see lots of organisations where the chief exec or the HRD, they just don't have the cojones to do it, or they're frightened that they're going to set expectations or make promises they can't keep. But or that they're not seen as authentic because they did something 2 years ago and did nothing with the response. But our view is we visibly go in, stick our head in the lion's mouth, and go, we wouldn't be here if they didn't really mean it. We don't come for free. And this is them recognizing if they had their time over again, they do things differently. Can't change the past, but they can change what's going forward.
Yeah.
And the reality with all this survey information, whichever organization it is the staff and the customers have all the answers. You've just got to get the listening right. That's the long and the short of it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to summarize and to end. I mean, you're showing some really great practical examples. I think it's also important that what makes one group or type of person feel connected to their organization is going to be different from another in terms of priorities. You talked about purpose. Just personally, I think I probably did a little bit of soul searching over the last 19 months and thinking, right, what is my purpose? What's my contribution? And clearly that's something that a lot of people are thinking about right now, but those priorities might be different from one to the next. But anything else you want to add? I just want to say, does anybody have any questions before we start to wrap up this session? I will wait for them to come through, but anything else you want to add, John?
No, I think the last bit on the turnover thing, we talked about there's some people are reevaluating. Some people, this is 2 years worth of turnover manifesting itself in one. Somewhere organisations have failed on their moment of truth. Organisations can't have it both ways. They can't go, oh, my turnover's out of control. Everyone's rushing for the exit. And they go, we can't hire because there's a candidate shortage. There isn't a candidate. Somebody's having your candidates, so there isn't necessarily a candidate shortage. Before COVID, there were more good jobs than there were people to do them. That's still the case, but everybody can shape and share their story to get people who will succeed and stay. There's 60 million people in the UK. You don't want them all to come and work for you, but there is a certain type of person who will succeed and stay. And everybody within your organisation should see their next role within your organisation. That you should be fluid enough and agile enough to make that a reality. As opposed to they think they've got to leave to get more money and more fulfillment. The purpose thing is key. pretty much every client we talk to say, yeah, we've got competitors all over our staff offering stupid money, but they're staying here because you spend a lot of time at work and you want to spend it with the people you want to spend it with the type of organization that you want to be in. And that's the bit that people have got to buy your brand every day. So you need to sell it to them in a way every day that makes them bring their talent to you every day, as opposed to their heads get turned, they go for that cup of coffee and then they're gone. They're emotionally before they physically leave.
Brilliant, beautiful. I've learned so much from this morning's session from you, John. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us all. Just for everybody's benefit, we've covered a lot. We will do our best to write all this up. So we'll put out basically some of everything we've discussed. If you want to find out more, then do connect with John directly. If you've missed his LinkedIn profile, then please get in touch with me or with us. And yeah, apart from that, we're back in 2 weeks' time. Delighted to be joined by Michelle from Visida, the D&I job board. She's got a whole bunch of stuff she wants to share. She's not backwards and coming forwards. Her opinions about D&I, especially around tokenism in the media. So that's going to be quite a good chat. I think she's going to be here physically. And then a week after that, we've got the IHR panel show in real life. And then a couple of weeks after that, we've got an interview with Anna Milbank, who's the founding partner of the Forum for In-House Recruitment Managers, looking at a lot of the recruitment trends and experiences over the last 18 months. So I hope you've enjoyed this morning. If you have, please do like and share future ones. This one, you can look back at previous episodes, but I hope you all have a really, really good week. And thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.